It was 10 a.m. Standing right in front of Martha's house was a man who looked as sharp on the outside as he was rotten on the inside. His name was Trent. Trent wasn't your average guy. He played the part of a classic American contractor, but underneath, he was a predator with dollar signs for eyes. Gripping a heavy clipboard, he stood chest out, towering right over Martha. Trent knew exactly how to shake down and brainwash elderly, vulnerable women in this country. Putting on a fake, dead-serious tone, he locked onto Martha's terrified eyes. "Martha, ma'am, you aren't grasping the gravity of this situation," he said. "I just did a deep-dive inspection of your basement and exterior. Your foundation, the main concrete base, is completely rotted out from the inside. The moisture and black mold have spread so bad that the entire structural integrity is shot. This house isn't sitting on solid ground anymore. It's a house of cards. One heavy blizzard and this whole building could collapse on top of you in seconds." Martha's heart started pounding against her chest. She clutched her wool shawl with trembling fingers. "But Trent, I've never seen a single crack. I've never heard any creaking. My husband Richard always said this house was built on iron and solid concrete. How could this just happen out of nowhere?" Trent flashed a cold, calculated smile. He knew exactly which nerve to press. "Your husband was alive back then, ma'am, and the house was new. Times have changed, and honestly, the house caving in isn't even your biggest problem. It's the city. The municipal inspection department already caught wind of this damage. If we don't fix this right now, today, their guys are going to roll up here at 8 a.m. sharp tomorrow. They'll slap a red unsafe for habitation tag on your front door and seal the property. You'll be evicted from your own home, and they'll hit you with a massive fine on top of it." The words seal and evicted pulled the ground right out from under Martha's feet. Her mind just stopped working. A 70-year-old widow with nothing left in this world but this house and the precious memories of her husband, was suddenly staring down the barrel of being thrown out on the streets. Tears of pure helplessness welled up in her eyes. "No. No. How can they just take my house?" she stammered. "This is all I have left of my husband. Please, Trent, tell me what to do. How do we stop this? I can't lose my home." Trent had been waiting for this exact breaking point. He pushed his clipboard forward, pulled a heavy gold pen from his coat pocket, and slipped it into Martha's shaking hand. "I'm here to help you, ma'am. Otherwise, I would have been gone by now. My crew is wrapping up a site on the highway. If you cut me an advance check for 50 grand right now, I'll call them down here immediately. We'll pump chemical resin and liquid concrete into that foundation overnight and turn it solid as a rock. When the city inspectors show up tomorrow, everything will be flawless. Your house is saved, but you need to make the call this very second or my hands are tied and you'll be packing your bags by morning." $50,000. It wasn't pocket change. That was a massive chunk of Martha's life savings. But the paralyzing fear of losing her home and facing the city inspectors stripped away all her rational thought. Trent's booming voice and scare tactics had completely hijacked her mind, twisting him into some kind of savior in her eyes. Martha gripped the pen with shaking hands. She didn't know whether to sign it or call someone, but who would she even call? She had no one in this world to give her straight advice. Trent's hungry eyes were locked onto her trembling hands, practically drooling for the moment that pen hit the checkbook. Just then, the roar of a heavy diesel engine ripped through the dead silence of the quiet suburb. A beat-up but rugged black Ford plumbing truck rolled up Martha's long driveway and hit the brakes. The wide tires crunched against the concrete, snapping Trent's attention away. Annoyed, Trent snapped his head around to see who the hell was interrupting right at the finish line, just when the prey was in the trap. The heavy truck door swung open, and a 25-year-old guy stepped out. It was Jack. Martha had called Jack just yesterday to fix an old leaky pipe down in the basement. Seeing this stranger, a sudden flicker of hope sparked in Martha's empty, terrified eyes. Looking at this broad-shouldered, calm kid, she saw a glimpse of an angel, or maybe the grandson she never had. The gold pen nearly slipped from her shaking fingers. She looked at Jack with desperate, pleading eyes. "Son?" Martha's voice still carried the tremor of the fear Trent had drilled into her head. You work in construction and repair too, right? Look, this contractor is saying my foundation is completely rotted out. The city is coming tomorrow morning to seal my house and throw me out. He wants $50,000 to fix it right now. I just don't know what to do." Jack listened to Martha with ice-cold composure. There wasn't a single ounce of panic or surprise on his face. He calmly turned and scanned the exterior walls and the concrete base of the house. His sharp, professional eyes analyzed every single inch. Then, he slowly turned back and stared dead into Trent's eyes. "There's not a single crack in that foundation," Jack said, his voice deadly quiet. "No leakage, no mold, and that concrete base is solid as a rock. So what cheap Hollywood movie did you steal this city inspection and sealing the house script from, buddy?" Trent's face went ghost white for a split second, but he wasn't about to let a $50,000 payday walk away that easily. He adjusted his collar, puffed out his chest to look taller, and took a step toward Jack, trying to project a fake, intimidating aura. "Listen here, plumber boy," Trent sneered. "You only know how to tighten pipes in the basement. You don't know jack about structural engineering or municipal code. I've been working in this city for 15 years. If I say this house is unsafe, it's unsafe. You're stepping in and putting this old lady's life in danger. When the city hits her with a massive fine, are you gonna foot the bill?" Jack didn't even blink. "Great script," Jack said, utterly relaxed but with a razor-sharp edge. "You deserve an Oscar for the acting and the confidence, but we both know exactly what you're pulling here, so let's kill the drama right now. If you're so legit, do me one simple favor. Just show me your general contractor license and that inspection notice from the city that backs up your claim." Trent's eyes widened slightly, but before he could spin another excuse, Jack pulled his smartphone out of his pocket. "I'm going to log on to the city portal right now and verify your license number and that notice online," Jack said, his thumbs already tapping the screen. He shifted his gaze from the phone back to Trent's pale face. "If your license clears and that notice is in the system, I'll back off entirely, and Martha here will gladly cut you a check for 60 grand, not just 50. Pull out the license. I'm waiting." The words license and online verification completely swept the legs out from under Trent. All that fake swagger vanished into thin air in a split second. He knew damn well that if this kid actually ran a check or dialed the cops, he'd be looking at years in federal prison. In the scamming world, when things go south, there's only one rule: run. My license," Trent stuttered badly. "The card, it's sitting on the dashboard of my truck. I'll go grab it right now." Without a second glance at Jack or Martha, Trent spun around. He practically sprinted to his flashy, expensive truck. Fumbling with the door, he threw himself inside and cranked the ignition. A second later, the engine roared. The tires screeched violently against the concrete, and he peeled out of the driveway, vanishing down the road. Martha stood frozen in place. She looked down at the gold pen still in her hand, Trent's pen, and dropped it onto the driveway. She couldn't believe that just 2 minutes ago, she was about to hand over her life savings to a hustler. If this kid hadn't shown up at the exact right time, her life would have been utterly ruined. Martha grabbed Jack's hand with trembling fingers. "Thank you, son," she whispered. "You saved my life today. You saved everything I've worked for from being stolen. I didn't even know what to do. I was just so terrified." Jack gently took Martha's hand between both of his. "It's no big deal, ma'am. It was the right thing to do. Guys like that prey on people who are alone and easily intimidated. You just have to stay on your guard." Martha looked up at Jack's face with deep affection and a strange, motherly warmth. "Please, son, it's freezing out here. You came to do a job, but before that, come inside. Let me brew you a good cup of coffee. It's the least I can do." Jack hesitated for a second, but there was so much sweetness and genuine warmth in the old woman's eyes that he just couldn't say no. He hoisted his heavy tool bag over his shoulder and followed Martha into the beautiful, spacious house. Inside, the house was incredibly warm and cozy. Old framed photos lined the walls, holding a lifetime of memories of Martha and her husband, Richard. Jack sat down at a chair by the dining table, slipping off his jacket and setting it aside. Within minutes, Martha returned, carrying a tray with 2 steaming mugs of coffee and some cookies. She took a seat right across from Jack. "You know, son," Martha said, taking a deep, shaky breath, "ever since my husband Richard passed away to the rest of the world, I'm just a lonely old woman, sitting on a massive piece of property ripe for the taking. When Richard was with me, life was so beautiful. We weren't afraid of anything, but since he's been gone, people don't knock on my door to help me anymore. They only come to see what they can take." Martha lifted her eyes and looked straight at Jack. There was a raw pain in her gaze that Jack recognized all too well. "Today, you walked in here like a literal guardian angel and helped me, expecting nothing in return. You saved me. But honestly, you haven't told me a single thing about yourself, son." Jack gently set his coffee mug down on the table. The hardened, tough exterior on his face completely melted away, replaced by a deep, hollow pain he had kept buried in his chest for years. He looked deeply into Martha's aged eyes. "My life is exactly like yours, ma'am," he said quietly. "The only difference is you lost someone you loved, and I never had anyone to lose in the first place." Those last words from Jack, "I never had anyone to lose," hung heavy in the air. "What do you mean, Jack? Where are your parents? Your family?" Jack took a long, deep breath. "I don't have a family, ma'am. I'm an orphan. When I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, my mom and dad were killed in a car wreck. After that, my whole life was just bouncing around the American foster care system and state group homes. I never had a real home. Every 6 months, I'd have to stuff my few clothes into a black plastic garbage bag and get shipped off to another stranger's house. Some folks kept me just to collect the state checks. Others treated me like free manual labor. But nobody ever gave me what you'd call a family. I grew up eating dust on the streets, hauling heavy iron pipes on construction sites, and just learning how to survive in a ruthless world. But ma'am, when you spend your entire life without an ounce of love, it leaves a massive, gaping hole inside you. It's an emptiness that no paycheck or job could ever fill. People look at me and think I just do plumbing, fixing broken pipes in folks' houses. But truth is, when I step in to help people like you, people the world has left to fend for themselves, it brings a little bit of peace to that broken part of my heart. It makes me feel like, just for a second, somebody actually claimed me as their own. Our lives and our stories are exactly the same, Martha." "The same?" Martha asked, her voice cracking with sobs. "Yeah," Jack said with deep respect and raw emotion. "The only difference is that right now, in the final chapter of your life, you're searching for the love and support of a son. And me, I've spent my entire life starving for the love of a mother who never got the chance to hold me. The world left you all alone, and the world never bothered to take me in to begin with." The weight of those words was so gut-wrenching that Martha couldn't even speak. She just broke down in tears. Jack gently pushed his chair back and stood up. He knew the emotions were starting to get the better of him, too, and the last thing he wanted was to look weak in front of anyone. He pulled a crumpled receipt and a pen from his pocket and scribbled down a number. "This is my personal cell, ma'am," Jack said, sliding the scrap of paper onto the coffee table. "If you ever need anything in this city, whether it's a busted pipe or another scammer like Trent trying to shake you down, or even if you just need somebody to talk to, you ring this number. Jack will always be right outside your door. Take care of yourself." Jack gave Martha one last look of deep respect, turned around, and started walking toward the front door with heavy steps. Martha stared at that piece of paper and then felt the crushing, suffocating silence of the house. This place was about to eat her alive all over again. Scumbags like Trent could always come back. But more importantly, this kid, who felt exactly like the grandson she never had, A kid with so much honor and love in his heart was walking right back out into that ruthless world. It hit Martha like a freight train. If she let this boy walk out that door right now, they were both going to be orphans, entirely alone for the rest of their lives. "Jack, wait." There was such a desperate, commanding pull in Martha's voice that Jack froze right before his hand hit the doorknob. He slowly turned around. Martha had stood up from her chair. "Where are you even going to go when you walk out of here, Jack?" she asked, her voice shaking. "You don't even have a home to go back to. Are you really going to go back out to those streets, back to that emptiness?" Jack had no answer for that. He just lowered his eyes, because it was the hardest, most bitter truth of his life. Martha slowly walked over to him. "If you don't mind, would you listen to me for just a second?" she pleaded softly. "Why are you going back out there? Why don't you just stay here in this house with me?" Jack's eyes widened in sheer shock. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. With tears streaming down her face, Martha said, "This house needs a man, a protector, Jack. And me, I need a grandson. You're out there in the world searching for a family, but neither of us has a soul left on this earth. If you stay here, my empty life will be filled with joy. I'll get to experience the love of a grandson in my final years. And you'll finally have the family and the home you've been looking for your entire life." That did it. The dam inside that rough, Sigma, hardened kid completely shattered. The boy who never bowed down to any force or hardship in the world was completely disarmed by the pure, motherly love in those words. A tear finally escaped his eyes, a tear he had kept hidden behind his tough, masculine exterior for years. Without saying a single word, Jack slid the heavy leather tool bag off his shoulder and set it on the floor. The heavy thud of that bag hitting the ground was the ultimate proof that the kid's years of wandering were finally over for good. Jack leaned down, wrapped his strong arms around elderly Martha, and pulled her into a tight embrace. Martha placed both her hands on the boy's back, rubbing it gently just like a mother would. There might have been a blizzard brewing in the outside world, but inside that house, years of dead silence had finally been broken. Two total strangers, who had been completely abandoned and left defenseless by a ruthless world, had just become each other's strength, each other's purpose, and each other's family.